Does it matter what order you put your plugins in? The short answer is yes. Another common question along the same lines is, should I EQ first or should I compress first? So we're also going to take a look at that too. And while there are no hard and fast rules about the orders you should use, later on I will recommend one for you. But first, a quick demonstration. Just listen to the difference in having the distortion at the beginning compared to at the end of the chain. First at the start. Then you keep me coming back. Now at the end. Then you keep me coming back. That's crazy, right? So firstly, the order does matter, and that's because your channel strip in your DAW, your effects, they run in series. So they run from one into the other, into the other, into the other. So there's going to be a knock-on effect. So if you put a reverb on, for instance, it's going to make your sound a bit darker, and generally it may be a bit muddier as well. And if you've done this before you've cleaned up your tracks with EQ, it's then going to get harder to be able to hear the original room resonances that you don't like, or any low frequency stuff you don't like, and EQ them out. Or for instance, if you use a compressor after a reverb, the transients are not going to be popping as much. They're going to be a bit more smeared across time. So the compressor is now going to react differently, and it will be a lot less effective at peak reduction. Let me show you what I mean again.
Would you be there tonight? Kiss my mouth with your poison. Would you be my nicotine? Would you be there tonight? Kiss my mouth with your poison. Would you be my nicotine?
So should you EQ or compress first? It's a question as old as time itself. But most of the time I prefer to EQ first, and this is why. A compressor is triggered by energy, and low frequency sounds have a ton of it. Therefore, if I've got a vocal and the vocalist is kicking the stand and thumping stuff and blowing on the microphone and tapping their foot, then it's going to create all this low end energy kind of stuff. And a compressor is going to react to that. The compressor is not going to know if it's meant to be compressing the audio from the vocalist or if it's meant to be reacting to that noise. It can't tell the difference. And because a lot of that noise is low frequency and therefore has a lot of energy, that will often trigger the compressor to react. So the compressor will be working on the wrong thing. This is why many compressors have a sidechain filter function, which allows you to set a threshold or frequencies that won't trigger the compressor to work. So that is why I prefer EQ before compression. You can make sure there's no low-end phantom noisy things going on that are gonna affect the compression later. If, however, you do want a dirty, noisy, rough sound, then by all means, go and compress the audio first, then worry about any EQing after. And you may not choose to do any cleanup with EQ at all, and that's completely cool too. So here you are, as promised, a general order that I like things to go on. If we're just talking about the most basics of effects, I like EQ, then compression, then reverb. That's my general rule. If you do need to put pitch correction on a vocal, then that's probably going to come in first though, I would say, before any more corrective stuff. Or if say you're recording a DI'd guitar or bass, then the amp sim would probably come first in the chain before any EQ compression. So there are definitely exceptions, and these are just two notable ones. So as a general rule, and I know I said there's no rules, but I like to do my cleaning and my clear up and my editing kind of effects before I do my creative effects. So that's the kind of rule I adhere to. So I get control of my sound first, I EQ, I compress, any vocal pitch correction, whatever goes on first before that. Then I do my choruses, my flanges, my phases, and then the reverbs and delays normally come at the end because they're going to change the sound in terms of like the time domain. So the reverbs are normally at the end of my chain unless it's obviously on a bus, which means it's then going to be working in parallel. Remember, there are no rules, not really. You can break them all you want. This is just the way I like to do it. So if you do want to put a reverb first and then compress the hell out of it, that sounds pretty cool, by the way, then go for it. I'm just saying, as a general order, this is what I would do, especially if you're new and you're not sure why to do things yet. If you want to learn more about producing music in Logic Pro, then I have some free courses on my website. I also have some not free courses on my website that are more advanced, and the link is below in the description for these. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Take care, bye.